I'm Annie Ross. I work with the Jarrah Aboriginal people in Australia. As anthropologists and archaeologists, we've been working with the Aboriginal community to expand on that core of knowledge. We've used archaeological techniques to map the site and to excavate the site. We've used anthropological techniques of asking people questions about their knowledge and their memories, not just of this site, but of many sites in the landscape, to contextualise the site, to give the site meaning. So this site is the site called Gummingurru. In pre-contact times, Aboriginal people would come up here from southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales, and their young boys would be brought here to be initiated into manhood. And then from here they'd travel up to the Bunya Mountains, where they'd participate in the Bunya feasts, which would occur about once every 3 years when the Bunya nuts were in their abundance. And the reason that the boys would be initiated is so that they could participate in the adult activities on the Bunya Mountains. And what would happen here at Gummingurru, the boys would be taken down to the carpet snake, and they'd be swallowed by the carpet snake and thereby die to childhood, and they'd be born again out of the carpet snake into the initiation ring. And it was at this stage that they would be assigned their yuri, or their major yuri, or their totem, and they would be taught the lore of that yuri and the way in which they should manage that yuri. One of the yuris they would be given is the turtle. And all these yuris are stone arrangements on this site. And the turtle emerges from the waterhole and makes its way up the hill. So its spirit being emerges from the waterhole and it leaves its footprints on the hillside as it's coming up. And there's 7 little patches of stone, which are the wet footprints of the turtle. And then it places itself here. Its corporeal form is placed here. And this is what we see as this stone arrangement. Well, as far as we know, because people were moved away from here in the 1890s, a lot of the specific knowledge has gone. But from the knowledge we've been able to resurrect by talking to old people or from having information from people who were around in the 1890s passed down, what we think is that each of these yuris have been placed in this landscape for the young initiands, now the students, to learn the story of their yuri and learn the lore for their yuri. So the turtle is on the eastern part of this site. So we think that it was people from the east who would have been given this yuri. The emu is on the western part of the site. So we think that this is a yuri for young people from the western part of southeast Queensland who would come to this area. And then we've got the Bunya nut, which is over here in the north, because the Bunya Mountains are in the north, and these are people who then would be responsible for the management of the Bunya nut. So yuri knowledge is based on management. So this is how young people are learning to manage their ecosystem. And every young person is assigned a yuri. Many are born into the carpet snake yuri, which is why the carpet snake is such an important figure on this site. It's the biggest stone arrangement on the site. It's right next to the initiation ring. So many would have been born into the carpet snake yuri, but through life people are given more and more yuris, which increases their responsibility for environmental management, increases their knowledge of law. So this site has always been a site of learning and sharing cultural knowledge. And even though today it's no longer used for initiation, it is still being used for sharing cultural knowledge and sharing story through its use today as a reconciliation site for teaching people all around southeast Queensland, girls, boys, adults, children, young, old. Everybody can come here and learn about the cultural heritage of this place. Throughout southeast Queensland, yuris are a really, really important way of connecting people to their country. So I know, for example, on North Stradbroke Island, people are assigned yuri at birth. People then choose their own yuri. So, for example, a very young child is taken to an important place on North Stradbroke Island, Brown Lake, at which they're introduced in their physical form to the spirit being of the lake that only knows them in their spirit form. And at that point, if a bird calls or a child shows an interest in a particular plant, that means that that Yuri has chosen that child. And the child then is not only responsible for the management of its Yuri, that places that child in a particular relationship to country and to people, because people are connected through their kin relationships and again through their Yuris. So all carpet snakes, all people who are born as carpet snakes, are linked to their country through their Yuri and to their kinship system through their Yuri. If you're a black snake, you'll have a different kin relationship, you'll have a different responsibility to country. So Yuris are vitally important to connect Aboriginal people to country, and Aboriginal people's connection to country is the core of their identity. And we've been developing activities for school kids to undertake in the classroom and here on site. So the site today remains a place of learning and sharing of knowledge, just as it was in the pre-contact times. So although the initiation part of the site no longer exists, the other part of the site has been resurrected. It is a place of learning. It is a place of knowledge sharing. It is a place where people from different parts of the world can come together. It's about alliance making. The Gummingura Aboriginal Corporation is forming alliances with the University of Queensland, with the local Shire Council. So I think one of the keys to understanding this place is that it is part of people's living cultural heritage. People today still live on the site, they still work on the site, they still manage the site, they still tell stories about the site, they still journey through this landscape, they still have various points in the landscape that are important memory places. And so a bit like forensic police, we've been gathering snippets of evidence from all around the area and then seeing how all this evidence comes back together to tell this story. And so we've been resurrecting this meaning bit by bit, piece by piece. The archaeological excavation has also added further information there. It demonstrates that there are parts of motifs that are buried right underneath the motif itself, which suggests that not only are there buried motifs that need to be brought up, but there are portions of motifs that have been covered over in times past and the new rocks added on top of them in exactly the same point. So using all of these different lines of evidence, we've resurrected the story of this place, so that in the 1960s nobody knew anything much about this place, to now we have a wealth of knowledge. We have enough knowledge that we could write an entire book on this site about this place and its importance and its meaning and its changing meaning. And that's been through that collaborative work between the Djarawar people and the university researchers. So this again is a really good example of this collaborative work that we've been doing. So what's that meant for me personally? As somebody who's trained as both an archaeologist as an anthropologist, for somebody who's passionate about cultural heritage, so the way people relate to heritage places of the past but in the present, I've been incredibly privileged. I've worked with a number of Aboriginal groups around particularly New South Wales and southeast Queensland. Certainly this group has been one of the most welcoming groups that I've worked with. The site is one of the most stunning sites that I've ever worked on. Every time we come here we learn just something different. Even if it's a tiny bit different, there's something different to learn. And it's great that we can share this knowledge in both directions and with the wider community.